This is the story of a young white female, and I can vouch for this story and its truth and reality. At age 21, I graduated from the police academy. It was a happy day for me and my family. I had finally accomplished something. I had always been a bright child, and my parents had high expectations for me. However, I had not lived up to those expectations until my 21st birthday. It was a struggle for me to finish high school because I had become a mother at 17. I had gone through so many difficult times that I had felt compelled to be somebody and prove myself to my family and the world. Now I was a young policewoman. My troubles were over. My first assignment lasted 6 months. I was assigned to going into local high school undercover. I did well at this first task. I proved myself to be a sharp and competent member of the drug unit. I obtained my second law enforcement position at the sheriff's office and was soon assigned to their drug unit. I made hundreds of arrests, and I was the by officer on thousands of other occasions. I related well with the druggies and the wayward. I felt comfortable with them. I had plenty of experience of being rejected and feeling alone. I received many commendations. I earned the respect of the other vice detectives because I was a loyal and fearless member of the team. I would burst through the door of a crack house, run down a dark alley after a runner, and I had even stood on street corners posing as a prostitute in order to catch the men that by law were just as guilty. After working undercover for almost 3 years, I was transferred to jail duty. By this time, my loyalties had changed. I had realized that America is built upon the rock of hypocrisy. There are no fair and equal principles in our courts. People aren't treated fairly. The truth can be bought. I had been laughed at for wanting to go out after my shift and check on the prostitutes. I was ridiculed for trying to get an arrestee into a drug rehab. I was a combination cop, social worker. My ideals and naive dreams of saving the world came crashing down on me when I was transferred to jail duty. Within 5 months, I had a complete nervous breakdown, and one of the ways that I manifested my symptoms was by aiding the escape of an inmate. He definitely manipulated me, and I was a weak link in a chain. But there were reasons for my sudden departure from the right side of the law. I had seen the politics up close and personal. I had watched lawyers, cop deals, plea bargain after plea bargain. And I watched people that were probably guilty, but not necessarily beyond the shadow of doubt, plead guilty for fear of going to jail and getting the maximum sentence. I had been a naive young girl when I took the oath to serve, and now I was thrust into a jail to walk in uniform, 10 feet higher than the crooks, many of whom I had placed there. I couldn't do it. I got depressed. I met a guy that seemed to be a good person. No physical contact, no romance for the record. I played judge and jury. I tried to give a 23-year-old boy who had been in prison for 6 years a life again. The law, the oath, nothing mattered to me anymore. I was angry for having been deceived by our society. In summary, my point is that our system is about money, just as it always has been. I wish that our world could go back to a time when people worked together to survive and not just get rich and pass everyone else up. Politics and money, power and money, greed and individualism. These are the things I have been confronted with. I have seen so much negativity and deceitfulness that I am ashamed of our society. Guess the things that makes me most angry that I tried to prove was good and do the right thing at 21. And I found out that there is very little good in the system.
White woman, who am I? Do I even know? It seems that the one question we have the most problem figuring out is everybody always wants to ask, who are you? And each time I try to think of an answer, I find there is really no simple answer. Scientifically, I am a human being made of bones, muscles, a heart, a liver, a brain, and millions of other organs, cells, and tiny human computers that allow me to stay alive. But what makes me different from the next person and how I became who I am is the most complex question of all. I was born to an alcoholic mother who had no real sense of what being a parent was about, and since she had the responsibility all to herself, she had an even harder time. So my mother did the only thing she knew how. She raised me the way her mother raised her. This was not the answer, considering she and her mother do not have any type of relationship. We were doomed from the beginning. Most of my life I grew up in an adult world with no guidance from my mother or members of my family. There were people who loved me, but none of them took the responsibility to teach me what a real family and what real values were. So I learned on my own by watching what went on around me. By the time I was 15, what I saw going around me made me believe that it was okay to lie, to steal, to drink all day, every day, and then if you wanted something and someone wouldn't give it to you, you manipulated them out of it. And that is who I became. By the time I was 20, I mastered each one of those qualities and even discovered a few more along the way. What I got for those qualities was a lot of hurt feelings, a deep sense of loneliness and fear, and a 3 to 15 year prison sentence. When I was incarcerated almost 3 years ago, I tried to adjust my skills to my new environment, but I found early on that was doing on the streets was small game compared to what was going on inside when I sat down and thought about it. I didn't want to learn from the best of the best and better my searching for answers that I have not yet found. I am in the middle of a divorce from my husband, and I turned to a woman for support and comfort and experiencing things that I have never felt before. I am sitting here helpless while Children's Services is trying to take my only child away from me. Basically, my life has been a living hell. To be honest with myself, it still is. I don't like the world I am living in, and there is no steps in getting any closer to the person I want to become.
A white woman. I was born with the proverbial silver spoon in my mouth. I am an only child of a very affluent family in Texas. The house I was raised in had more rooms in it than one family could ever use. The cars my parents drove were more than some people's houses cost. Anything I wanted to do of a material nature was given to me, no questions asked. So you might ask, what happened to a kid who grows up with this type of lifestyle? What went wrong in my life? I can explain it in one word: marriage. When I was 17, I was a cheerleader in high school. I stayed after school one day for practice, and that's where I met my husband. He pulled up in a black Porsche and was dressed in designer labels from head to toe. My husband started coming to school more frequently, and we began dating. Shortly after my wedding, I found out that my husband wasn't wealthy from landscaping, but from dealing massive quantities of cocaine in a network that had bases all over the United States. I also learned that to disagree or to question him about anything was not a good idea. It took me 9 trips to the hospital and almost every one of my bones broken in my body until I learned to keep my opinions to myself. Why didn't I leave? I tried. I was very quickly found and brought back. I barely survived that night. They brought me back. I learned that I should never try to leave again. Life went on. We traveled a lot. Most drug dealers were frequent flyers. My marriage went from bad to worse. I truly believed that one day my husband would kill me. I was lucky though. Unfortunately, another person wasn't. My husband did end up killing someone because of a bad drug deal in 1987. As his wife, I was also indicted in the crime. Though I was incarcerated, I began to feel freer than I ever felt in a long, long time. No longer did I live under the umbrella of constant fear. Getting arrested and being sent to prison literally saved me and gave my life back.
Black woman. I came from a family of 4. My father was an alcoholic and always very abusive towards my mother. He would beat my mother bloody. or even tried to smother her with pillows. I suffered deeply, physically and mentally whenever I tried to assist my mother. I was so small, but I was never afraid to help my mother. I would jump on my father's back and sink my teeth into his flesh and bite as hard as I could. He would run backwards into the walls, and the pain was more than I could ever take. Oftentimes he would throw me into the wall. My second home was at the hospital where he was the cause of me going there. I hated him so much, and all I wanted to do was kill him. It's all I ever thought about. While he slept, I would try sneaking up on him with a knife to stab him, but to no avail. My grandmother also lived in the same household. I loved her so much. She was so understanding to how I felt, and no one else had ever been such as such. She would try to save me from getting whooping. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I think I was the only child in the world who received whooping daily. My father would beat me if I looked at him wrong. I ran away from home often. I looked at myself as living very different from other kids that age. My oldest brother, whom was 5 years older than me, gave me the opportunity to develop an interest in a life of crime. He would dress me up in a nice dress, comb my hair, and take me to different gas stations within the city and have me sneak up in it while he kept the employer busy and steal the money, which would be in the back room. This went on daily. And when I didn't want to go, he would beat me up. This continued until I was 12. And by the age of 12, I had so much hate in me. Beating no longer affected me. When my brother would send me into those gas stations, I usually found a gun along with the money. I always took the gun. I had a huge collection of guns. I would play with them over and over and allow my thoughts to take control of me. I killed my father over and over in my mind by shooting him repeatedly. At the age of 12, I began carrying a gun. One day my father beat my mother almost to death. I pulled a gun on him and he laughed. I shot him. I told him I've dreamed of killing him and now my dream would come true. But it didn't, because my grandmother stopped at me and my sister and brother did what they always did, hid and watched us. My father left my mother because he became afraid of what I would do next. I was sent away to Blossom Hill, a girls' school at the age of 12. While there, I became involved in a homosexual relationship. I did a year in a girls' school, and when it was time to leave, I decided I wanted to be on my own. I moved in with an older woman and continued my homosexual behavior. My brother became my partner in crime, taught me how to steal cars and also how to make money with all the guns I kept hidden in the cellar. I ended up returning back to the girls' school because I was caught in a stolen car. I've been in jail and girls' schools all my life. Even today, I ask myself, what went wrong? Why was my life as such? Why was I such a bad child? So many things I can't remember. I've been through a lot in my life. But I can honestly say I'm tired, and this is my last trip to prison because I choose to do something else with my life. And I know that I'm capable of doing such. I feel that it's not too late for me. Me and my mother is the very best of friends. She remarried to a wonderful man who I love deeply. My brother is also in prison, and my other brother is a really good guy with 2 beautiful daughters. I just always ask myself, why was I dealt the hand in life I've had?